Hunter Biden, welcome to the Candace Owens Show.
It's wonderful to be
People
here.
are just going to be like, how on earth did this happen?
I know.
I got to give them a bit of a backstory. So I went to dinner with a fellow podcaster, and we were just talking about interviews because we don't do too many interviews on the show. And he first asked me what was the best interview I ever did, and I said, without question, the USS Liberty survivor Phil Turney. And then he said, what would be your top interview that you'd want to do? And I said, oh gosh, we're in such a different time now. Like, I'm just not interested in politics. Like, it would have to be something so different. And then I said, actually, Hunter Biden. And I said to him, I watched your sit down with Andrew Callahan.
Yeah.
And it was kind of the most refreshing interview that I had seen in politics in a very long time, because we're so used to being gaslit about various things happening. Everyone's trying to hide stuff. And we read a lot about you. I guess we didn't really hear anything from you. So this was kind of the first time that I heard you in your own words, just totally owning your addiction issues, also going after Jake Tapper and George Clooney. And when we were kind of expecting the typical Democrat, like, these are great guys, these guys are amazing, Jake Tapper should, win a Pulitzer, I don't know. And I would just, it wasn't what I was expecting, is what I would say. So, and then that person just sort of made this happen.
Yeah.
So I want to just sort of get into the Hunter Biden story. I will say to the audience right now, I have already made the pledge right when I got on the phone with you that, like, obviously I'm not going to make you say anything bad about your father, because that would just be completely demonic to be like, say something terrible about your father. Everyone knows my opinions, my political perspectives. They're already out there. He is your dad. So that is separate from my viewpoints.
Because there's no way I possibly could.
Yeah, of course. I totally get that. But there's a lot to be said about you, and a lot that I guess hasn't been said about your journey. And I guess I want to start with just one question for the culture. The cocaine that was found at the White House, was it yours?
No, not only was it not mine. No, number one is thank you for having me here. And one of the reasons is to be able to answer these questions. The one thing I am, after 6 years of this, I've been sober since June 1st of 2019, clean and sober. Verifiably so, by the way, and verifiably so by the Bureau of Probation, in which I was drug tested randomly for over the course of 2 years while I went through my trials and things like that. But beyond that is that, directly to your question, I wasn't even there. Not only there, but people have to understand is where that cocaine was found was, the visitor's entrance underneath that is where visitors come in, and they come over from the old executive office building staff to go to the Oval, or go to the chief of staff's office, or to the offices in the West Wing. And it was found in a cubby in right outside of the Situation Room.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like no possibility, not even remotely, beyond the fact that I wasn't even there. Right. I mean, I spent probably, over the course of 4 years, maybe 25 days at the White House, like 25 nights, 30, if I'm being fair. And so it's just it was an easy, I'm an easy target, and understandably so.
Right.
I mean, I've been, I think, probably the most famous addict and famous person, through the grace of God, in recovery for 7 years, or close to 7 years, June 1st. So.
Yeah, I definitely thought you were on drugs while your father was in the White House. I don't know. Yeah. But I think it might have just also been the timing of the laptop coming out, and then people just assuming that you were still on drugs. I don't know. That might have been why in our heads we thought that.
I think that it was that they purposely conflated. I wrote a book, which came out in April of 2021, in which I did something that very few people, I think, ever in that are kind of like similarly situated to me do. In which I was 100% frank about the fact that not only was I an addict, not only was I alcoholic. I don't really see the distinction between the two when they're both drugs, but I was a crack addict. Like, I was a degenerate crack addict. I mean, I've heard you call me a crackhead many times, and the truth of the matter is I was a crackhead.
Yeah.
And I say that not to shock people, because it's really shocking crack cocaine carries such a stigma to it to begin with, but I say it because I think that there are so many people. I don't think, I know. There are so many people. I think that there's, at any given time, 30 million Americans that are either in active addiction or in recovery. There's not a single person that I know that hasn't been impacted by
Mm.
addiction at some level, in some form, personally, or with someone that is one degree of separation from them that they love. No one that I know.
Least of all me.
Yeah, and part of that, one of the reasons I'm here, the stories that you tell about that in terms of,
My family.
your family, and, and and there is where the common ground is for me. I can 100% say this, is that a friend of mine, gave me this quote, um, about 2 years ago, and it's become my mantra. It's Mother Teresa. It was attributed to Mother Teresa, is, "If you wanna change the world, go home and love your family." That's that's my everything, now, and part of that is not just the family that you have, by, blood and birth, but also the community that you're inextricably, tied to, and that community for me is the recovery community. And it's people that are still sick and suffering from addiction. And so the biggest reason that I wanted to come talk to you, beyond the fact, and this is not me blowing smoke, I think that regardless of whether I agree with you, that you're probably the most effective communicator I've ever heard
Thank you.
behind a microphone. And it's really driven me crazy at times. It really,
When
really,
I was the
really made me
enemy.
mad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but is that I wanted to talk to you about those things and anything else you want to talk about.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm most interested in the addiction story, and
yeah,
I was saying to you before we started rolling, that this was sort of something that I noticed when I would cover various topics, whether it was pornography, drugs on my
yeah,
show, drinking, how many men would write and say they were suffering with various things, and yet they don't often speak about, um, like, how they're quietly suffering, whether it's with addiction to pornography, addiction to drugs, and I don't think there are enough conversations about it, and so when I watched that interview of you just laying it out there,
yeah,
something that most people try to hide or they're shameful of, I was like, there actually just needs to be more dialogue about it. I grew up with tons of addicts in my family. I have people in my family who are still addicted. And I think, there is a natural anger that people have when they, for some reason, believe, and I think this was part of the anger that even some that I had it toward you before I heard you speak about your addiction, is that you sort of think when somebody has money and political connections that somehow removes them um, from going through
yeah,
these sorts of barriers in life. So when I grew up, it's like, oh, okay, like you have uncles, whatever, that are addicted to crack, you have cousins that are doing crack, whatever it is, or experimenting with meth and drugs and those things. And then you see someone that has a life of privilege, and for some reason in your mind, you wrongly go, okay, that can't happen. And it
yeah.
did happen. And I'd like to hear like how you got addicted. Like what was actually the story, your path toward addiction?
Yeah. So thank you for letting me talk about that or asking me about it. And I really mean it. It's one of the things that traps people. I can only speak about myself, but I think that people that are in that are addicts or that are in recovery, also you find out really fast is that you're not as terminally unique as you think you are. Is that and one of the things uh, uh, that is really important about addicts talking to each other and talking about it is that realization. Because one of the things that traps you in your addiction is shame.
Mm.
And you like me are Catholic, and we have learned that guilt is an appropriate emotion. Guilt is an appropriate response to something when you've done something wrong, and you're supposed to atone for it, and you're supposed to seek forgiveness, whether the forgiveness comes from an individual or not. You're that that is that's the lesson, is that it is in only through seeking that forgiveness can you release yourself from that guilt. That's appropriate. Shame is not. Shame is just absolutely corrosive. Shame is you telling yourself that you're not worthy, that you're never gonna be worthy, that the things that you've done, you can never be redeemed from. And I've done horrible things in my addiction in terms of what I did in terms of my relationships and decisions that I made, and more than anything is just removing myself from, being present for the people that love me. Um, and, um, and what happened to me, um, and I really mean this, is that the exposure, not piecemeal, but the total exposure, my entire digital footprint stolen from me, a 20-year digital footprint, every text message, every picture, every all of the things that you would be ashamed of became, front page news for for 4 years, 5 years, beginning in 2019. And, uh, and it forced me into a choice, and the choice was, do I get out of bed and live, or do I die? And it became that much of a dichotomy. And I, uh, and I chose to live. And it wasn't easy, and maintaining sobriety in that kind of like a pressure cooker,
Mhm.
um, is often the thing that triggers you, but something broke in me in a good way, which was that I no longer have any fear. I like, sitting down with you is, to me, an opportunity for you to see me as a human being and not, Hunter Biden laptop
Yeah.
and the pictures that, Congressman Green, like, put up, in Congress, or the New York Post. I think I was on the cover of the New York Post in one year more than anybody in the history of the paper, and none of it was good. None of it was good, and, but what it's given me is the opportunity to own it all, is to own, all of my story without shame or fear, uh, realizing that I, um, I have a community of people out there that I wanna, I wanna be of service to. I really mean that, and so, and part of it is by me being able to be honest about it, and we were just talking before we started this, is the hardest thing for any addict to do is not only get honest with the people that they love, but to get honest with themselves.
Mm.
And until they can really see themselves for who they are, all of it, and decide to love themselves, then the cycle is just going to continue. It's just, at least in my experience, that's the truth.
I think one of the things.
Did I even answer your question?
Yeah, well, I wanna talk
Yeah.
about the first time that you got introduced to it because that's
Yeah.
interesting,
Oh,
and
I know. I went into all the good
yeah,
stuff.
actually
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
start with that, like, how did
Yeah.
you actually get
So,
introduced
okay.
first off, describe for
Yeah.
people who don't know,
Yeah.
the difference between cocaine and crack, because
Yeah.
crack is
Yeah.
a lot more addictive,
Yeah.
and so just what is the difference
I know I
between.
got a lot of heat for,
No, it was
yeah,
fantastic. It was fantastic. I was like, "Well, he's
yeah,
actually very educated
yeah.
on this," and
Well, it's important to me to make the distinction that there's this idea that there's this kind of a secret kinda special enhancement to powder cocaine that makes it into crack, and, you have to have, some, technical degree in order to be able to do that, and, let's start all the way at the beginning. I think that I'm genetically predisposed to be an alcoholic. I do believe that there is a genetic piece of it. I do believe that my brain works differently as an addict in terms of the way in which my synapses fire once they're introduced to the dopamine hit and the serotonin increase that occurs because of an introduction of a substance. I believe that I became acclimated and physiologically dependent upon that when I started to drink in earnest when I was in college, in which you can control. And I made it through Georgetown, and I went to Jesuit Volunteer Corps for a year, and it's kind of like domestic peace. Well, the
yeah.
JVC. I was JVC for a year after college, and then I went to Yale Law School. Was married, had my my oldest daughter when I was a, first year law student, and made it through all of that, and made it through my, first years of employment, drinking probably more than everybody, than most people do, but completely functional. And one day I woke up when I was 33 years old to my brother calling me and say, "This has gotta stop. Like, you gotta stop." And, and and what he meant is that, like, a whole weekend was missing, kind of, and, and I said, "Okay." And he drove me to the airport, and, he put me on a plane in New York, and I flew to a place that was started by Eric Clapton called, uh, Crossroads in Antigua, and I went to rehab, and I came out, and I went directly when I came out, my brother picked me up from the airport, drove me to an AA meeting, walked in with me, DuPont Circle in DC. I met my sponsor at that first meeting that I ever went to, and I stayed clean and sober for about 7 years, and, uh, and then I relapsed, and, and it was just such a mundane, stupid story. I was on a plane by myself, everything was okay, things were looking up, it was, uh, normal life pressures, but it was all good, and that's the real insidious thing about addiction and alcoholism. It never goes away necessarily. There's always the answer that is being presented to you by the thing that you trust the most, which is your brain.
Mm,
And what it says is, if you don't want to feel this way, whatever the way is, or if you want to feel this way even more, I have the answer for you. And I was on a plane by myself, and I had a drink. And that drink in 2010, 7 years almost of sobriety, started a cycle of, relapse and recovery, and relapse and recovery, in which it was really hard for me to be honest with the people that love me, because I just wanted to hide it. I just wanted it to go away, and I thought, "Okay, I'll get through this cycle, and, I'll sleep it off, this weekend, and that's it. I'm done." And that would last a week, and then it would last 3 months, and then I went back to rehab, and then it became then I came back and I started I mean, talk about you talk about this all the time, which I love that you do, is big pharma, you know what I mean? I had shingles, and so somebody prescribed me like 52 oxyco like, I mean, ridiculous, and I started that, and then I started drinking again, and the prescription ran out, and then this cycle just started to happen. And, but when my brother died, uh, it all fell apart. Bo and I, uh, were, uh and like, I don't purport that our relationship was unique, or that his loss was greater than, my loss of him was greater than anybody else's loss of their brother or someone that they deeply, deeply loved. But when my mom and sister and my Bo and I were in that car accident in 1972, um, and we survived, it was the 2 of us every day. We're a year and a day apart. We talked every day. I mean, except when he was in Iraq, I literally probably talked to my brother, every day. And, and, uh, and when Bo died, my marriage fell apart, after 20 years, 22 years. By the way, for reasons that, marriages fall apart, you know? And, but I take a lot of responsibility for. And, uh, and it just started a really, really dark cycle. In the past, uh, when I would have these relapses, there was always someone in such proximity to me that they would like, I couldn't escape. I couldn't escape. In this instance, Bo was gone. I, right after Bo, died, I, um, ended up, separated from my wife, like, within the month. And my dad, for the first time in my life, who was my rock, was stuck in his own grief, like, deep, deep grief.
mm,
And I just went down into a hole. And I checked myself into a rehab that year, and came out and stayed sober for a while and then relapsed and then went into an outpatient program in DC where I went 4 hours every day for, from 8 to 2 or 6 hours every day, um, stay sober. And then I relapsed and I came back and they said, well, you have to, I admitted to them that I relapsed and that in this instance, I also used cocaine. And they said, well, you have to take a drug test. And I said, I'm not going to take a drug test. I'm not going to put something on, it's because it's not protected by HIPAA in a rehab uh, uh, scenario, which is crazy, right?
Mm.
Yeah. Anyway, long story short, they said, you can't come back in unless you take the drug test. And I said, well, I'm not taking the drug test. I'm going through a divorce. And it's not protected by HIPAA. It will become public. I don't want to do this to my family. I'm telling you, I used cocaine and I drank. Is that not good enough to come back? And they said no, for whatever reason, and I'm not blaming them. This is not their fault. I walked out and I knew Lincoln Park was a kind of open air drug market. I saw a woman that was kind of famous in the area since I had been in college, literally for 20 years, that I would see in the streets around, DC in that area where I worked for a long time. And I went up to her and I said, can I get some crack?
Wow.
And I think it was basically, I said, can you help me commit suicide? I mean, I don't think, I know that now and looking back, it was the coward's way. And I really mean that. I was a coward. I didn't go and just do it. I said, let me do it this way and really, really, really drag everybody down with me along the way. Let, let me figure out the way not only to kill myself, but to maybe kill my dad, you know, really hurt my family, um, particularly my 3 daughters who, adore me and I adore, just the fact. And I smoke crack. And the difference between crack cocaine and powder cocaine is this, and I really truly do not want to give a roadmap for people to be able to, do this because I swear to God, it'll kill you. But it's sodium bicarbonate, which is baking soda, water, heat. That's it. That's all. That is the entire difference of it, which allows it to be ingested through a smoking. And the combination of those things makes it so that it affects your physiology much faster than it would be if you just use powder cocaine through your nose or in any other form other than intravenously. And it also allows you to ingest more faster than you could possibly ever ingest by sniffing cocaine up your nose. The combination of that, the combination of combustion, ritual, and the ritual meaning the way in which you have to, you know, I mean, I can still feel my hands doing it,
Mhm.
is, becomes this ritualistic thing with the combination of combustion, which is, and you learn, I mean, if you really study things about addiction, is these kind of key components of oral fixation and things like that. It just becomes the most ungodly addiction that you can possibly imagine to the point where I was smoking crack. I mean, literally, I was either looking for or smoking or recovering, not even recovering. You don't recover. You just go find more for close to a 2-year period of time.
Wow.
And it took me to places, I wrote all about it and I got made fun of about it. And, people think that, when I wrote my book, clawing through the carpet to find crack cocaine and, Parmesan cheese and I know it's a real laugh line, but anybody that's ever been an addict like that, they don't laugh about it. It's devastating. Think that you were that person.
Mm.
You can see yourself doing it. Just devastating. And so what happens in addiction so often is this, is people not only, they can't admit that. They can't even admit it to themselves. They just block it out. They go, they get 30 days clean. They come out, they go back into the same exact situation that they were in before. And they think, I'm just not going to do it again. I'm just going to stay, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. And what will come up is that they'll wake up in the morning and they'll remember that time in the motel with the person, the prostitute that brought you the
Mhm.
drugs and, that stole your wallet and all your and all your drugs and everything, and you had to you were clawing through carpet to see if there was anything there, and you smoke whatever white that you found on the ground. Like, it's the shame
Mm.
is thinking of yourself like that, regardless of who you are, regardless of where you came from, whether your dad's the president of the United States or it doesn't matter. And they don't admit that to themselves. They don't admit it to anyone around them. Don't ever say it. And you know what happens? They never lose it. And it sits like right here, like in the back of your head, and it pops up. And you just feel so disgusted with yourself that your brain immediately tells you, regardless of how far away you are from a drink or a drug, like, I know the way not to feel this way. I know exactly how to feel this way. You're going to die if you keep feeling this way. You need to take a drink.
Mm.
And that's always how it starts. I mean, alcohol is the most dangerous drug in the world, um, uh, just by virtue of the amount of destruction and devastation that comes personally into the people around people that are alcoholics. And I don't find any difference between being an addict and an alcoholic. Um, but that's where it starts, and that's where it started for me. That's my story until I met Melissa and got clean and sober, and I've been so, almost 7 years now.
All right, you guys, some moments change everything. And for a woman facing an unexpected pregnancy, seeing her baby on an ultrasound and hearing that tiny heartbeat can turn fear into hope. In fact, it doubles the chance that she'll choose life. That's why Preborn exists. Through free ultrasounds, compassionate care, and real support, Preborn reaches women who feel overwhelmed and alone, giving them the chance to choose life for their babies and a future for themselves. But the support doesn't stop there. Preborn continues helping moms after birth with essentials like diapers, baby clothes, maternity support, counseling, parenting resources, and encouragement. Today, you can help a scared woman become a confident mother. A donation of just $28 provides one free ultrasound, and $140 can help reach 5 women in crisis. To donate, simply dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. Again, that's pound 250 baby, or visit preborn.com/Candace. Again, that's preborn.com/Candace. I also, of course, have to remind you about Nimi Skincare because I used to think that great skincare had to be complicated. Like if I wasn't using 10 different products, I wasn't doing enough. Then I found Nimi's 3-step anti-aging routine, and it has changed everything. It's simple, it's fast, and my skin has never looked better. Step 1 is the vitamin C cleanser. It leaves my skin feeling fresh and clean without that dry, tight feeling. Then I use the peptide moisturizer during the day for hydration and firmness. And at night, the renewal night cream is my favorite part. I wake up looking rested, smoother, and glowing. That's it, just 3 steps, morning and night. And what I love most is that Nimi focuses on ingredients that actually work without making skincare feel overwhelming. So if your bathroom counter is overflowing with products that you barely use, maybe it's time to simplify. Nimi's 3-step anti-aging routine makes taking care of your skin feel easy again. So check out Nimi Skincare today at nimiskincare.com and use code Candace10 at checkout for a special discount. Again, that's nimiskincare.com, promo code Candace10 at checkout. When you're in that moment, and I guess people don't realize like you're going through this and you don't get to decide what your father does for a living. And I think that's probably why people separate it as well too, because like I said, there's this idea
Mhm.
of what a politician's family is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you obviously are, because I genuinely understand what those sorts of addictions do. I don't think people realize you're just not even yourself. Like you're like it's like a demon, as the best way to say it. And
Yeah.
I'm taking a Catholic take on this, but like it's like a full demonic possession when you're in the throes of these drugs. And I mean, this was actually a great benefit of A&E doing intervention because people could
Yeah.
really see these moments where people will choose the drug over their family. They will choose the drug over their kids. They will choose, they'll choose the drug over literally anything. And for people who, and I actually tend to agree with you that I've wondered myself if there's something genetic because I'm not wired that way.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just haven't found the drug that would do that to me. But like, I would say that like, I've just never been,
Yeah.
never had something and was like, oh, I just need to have that again or want it again.
Yeah.
And I've seen friends that they have something once and they're like, want to do this every second. And I go, that's very interesting. Like, it's almost like
Oh,
you're
I totally
made
agree.
of something
I'm
different.
I'm certain of that, and the science is certain of that in many ways. I mean, we all can, I think that we all can, um associate with, understand addiction at, more or less devastating, levels. So, for instance, where's your phone? I mean,
Oh, like
you basically have a packet of heroin,
right.
we all do, in our
Mhm.
pocket,
Yeah.
constantly giving us that dopamine, which, by the way, we can get to talking about that because I think that we are not nearly as divided as people as we think that we are. I think that that bag of heroin in everybody's pocket, is feeding them a lot of that division. But is so we can all kind of understand the, compulsion to do things that clearly aren't benefiting us, like staying up, until 3 o'clock in the morning and going through your For You page on TikTok.
Mhm.
Um, every mother, father, can watch their teenager, do that and go, "God, this is awful," and I'm gonna take his phone away, and then they turn back to their phone and they they start going through their phone, like I'm, I am not any, better. I So we can kind of all is understand that compulsion. It's when the compulsion becomes just so, uh, uh, the blast radius continues to grow.
Mhm.
So, the difference between being uh, addicted to your phone, and being addicted to crack cocaine, I'm not saying are the same, but at least we can kinda get a little bit of an understanding of the physiology of that, of the way in which the brain actually works. Um, but
It's like the micro versus the macro, yeah.
yeah,
And
exactly.
everybody has the
Yeah,
micro.
but so you can see the micro impact of it. But I think that one of the reasons that why people are, so, like, shocked by my story, right? And by the way, and we're able to conflate. So if the New York Post every day for 6 years, uh, runs a picture online. I mean, I think they literally at one point did, like, uh 1.5 stories of me a day for an entire 18-month period, okay? And each it didn't matter what the subject was, it was a picture of me naked
With the prostitute,
with
with
whatever and with a crack pipe in my lips. So what like, I don't get mad at people when they go, like, "Was that your cocaine?" Like, well, number 1, the White House. It's like, it just doesn't make any sense. I had 7 Secret Service agents with me at any given time everywhere I went. The idea that I was in the Situation Room and would decide to drop off I
yeah.
mean, that but beyond that silliness is I don't blame people for not realizing that I have worked my effing ass off. I mean, in this environment, the proudest thing that I've ever done is stay clean and sober through all of that. Every piece of it, right? Both the trials, through the accusations, through the, you know, Alexander Smirnoffs and Gallups and Konstantin Kuliks and Lev Parnases and Rudies and Steve Bannons and all of that is that purely because of the love of the people around me and my willingness to own it all. I'm sitting in front of you,
Yeah.
and you're not taking that away from me.
Right.
No, and by the way, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
The realization at one point is that you can try. I have no fear, no fear, and that doesn't, and that's why I'm here more than anything is because I like I don't I probably I'm certain that we disagree on a lot of stuff, but there used to be a time, Candace, where you and I could sit down together and disagree about tax policy
Mhm.
and disagree about, the Catholic Church's view on abortion or disagree with, I mean, whatever the subject may be, and still be able to go have a meal together.
Right. I talk about that often on my show. Like, back when I was
Yeah,
left-leaning in college, my best friend was Republican conservative. Like, it wasn't so at each other's throats and hating each other and
yeah,
wanting to destroy one another, and you know, you could kinda see the good and the bad and go, "Well, this is why I have this perspective," and perspectives could change, and that was allowed
Yeah.
too. I think about what it was that just revisiting what made a lot of people, including myself, so angry about you, um, or I guess it wasn't really about you, it was the gaslighting. It was the letter that came from people saying it was Russian propaganda. That is what is driving us crazy about the Epstein files right now. It's what's actually leading, ironically,
Yeah.
to the collapse of the MAGA support, is we don't
Yeah.
wanna be gaslit.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it wasn't you. That's why it was so refreshing when you were like, "Yes, I had a crack addiction. This is me. I did this. I was with hookers."
Yeah.
But you weren't speaking for you, and there were literally a bunch of people that were coming out and saying, "This is not real."
Yeah.
And that is the most infuriating thing because
Yeah.
everyone's average. Everyone can connect with addiction. Everyone could have this conversation. Actually, if you would come out and I probably in that environment, obviously, maybe there would have been a different result because we were at
Candace.
each other's
Yeah.
throats.
No, exactly.
But that is
I
what
get your
made
point.
people so angry.
Yeah.
It was like, "Nope, he
I
never smoked
if I
crack. It wasn't real.
Yeah.
The laptop is Russian
Yeah.
propaganda." We're like, "Guys,
Yeah.
what is this?"
Yeah. By the way, is that here's the problem, is that Steve Bannon saved and Rudy Giuliani saved the quote unquote laptop, which by the way is bullshit. Like if we can agree on that gaslighting, I will agree on the gaslighting of this. Is that it was never a quote unquote laptop. There was a hard drive
Okay.
of stolen and hacked material, wherever it came from, whether it came from a Delaware repair shop or whether it came, like Lev Parnas says, from Dmitry Firtash, who was trying to sell a hard drive of Hunter Biden's in Ukraine. That they were looking for before the laptop repair shop guy was ever the twinkle in the eye. Just go back and look at the record. Okay, so here's the thing: is you're absolutely right, and and this is like the freedom of being able to say this. It's like, yeah, they should have let me go out and talk.
Yeah.
But it was 2 weeks before the campaign, and then and then the election was over. Steve Bannon, it goes on and with his buddy Gao, the Chinese billionaire that's now in prison, and that is like a Chinese spy or whatever. Where he got arrested on his boat and all that the crap. Is it? I mean, there is a go listen to it. Go listen to the recorded conversation in which they say, like, the laptop, like, we got him. We so we we collected all the salacious pictures and we put them out there. And then Rudy went out and stood on the steps of the Newcastle County Courthouse with Bernie Carrick and said, "This contains child exploitation," like pure, pure bullshit, just bullshit. So on both sides, you have this reaction, which I don't think was necessarily a coordinated reaction in the sense that, what do you do in 2 weeks? And so they come up with this and they say, and I don't get to go out and say, no, I was. But you know what I did? Is that come April, I write a book and I tell everybody I was addicted to crack. And here's my story. And here's what happened. And here is all of the rooms that no one would ever want to admit to being in that I was in. And it was like a blip on the radar because everybody was now fighting about whether there was kind of a suppressed story on Twitter and whether there was this gaslighting from, and by the way, I am not here to defend any of
But
those
then it's
people.
part of like the political machine where they're like, "We have 2 weeks to go to the election.
Yeah.
We're going to do this denial,
Yeah.
because we can't afford this right now, essentially."
Yeah.
And then we're going to table this, make it past these 2
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
And then by that time, first and foremost,
by
your
the way,
father
yeah.
won,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and so people are angry. They feel like the election's been stolen and that there was this entire collusion to cover a laptop, which if it was on the other side, they may have done too. This is what DC is. It's politics. But that is where I think the anger came from.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
I get it.
how dare you gaslight us?
Yeah.
And then people then start making you this focal point
Yeah.
of
And it never had
like,
anything to do with me.
right. It was
And, you
kind
know,
of bigger than you at that point,
You know what the laptop proved?
that you were a crackhead.
There you go.
That you
By
were
the way,
deep in the throes of crack
all this
addiction.
other bullshit, bribery and all these other things that they investigated up and down during the Trump administration with a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney, with the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney, the only U.S. attorney in the country to stay on and continue to prosecute me, who then became special counsel after I got a plea deal because I paid my taxes late. and I paid them with penalties and interest, and I
Mhm.
owned a gun for 11 days while they say I was addicted and check that box.
Mhm.
That's it. Everybody has all the information. It's not like the Department of Justice has my digital footprint in every text message, every email, and there's not a single one in which you find that would in any way supports the really serious accusations of, enriching my father enriching himself somehow, or none of it. None of it's there. So I own whatever you wanna call it. I own the laptop. Come, you know what? We can go through it together.
Mhm.
If you're willing to, like, avert your eyes to the tragedy of
Mhm.
addiction. I mean, just the absolute tragedy of it.
Yeah.
But man, oh man, we have not there is no space for that in discourse anymore. There's no space for the nuance of, well, that was addiction, that wasn't corruption. You know, I did not do any business through entire 4 years. I became a painter. You know why I became a painter? Because it literally saved my life. I painted my whole life, and Melissa instinctively knew that I literally needed to, like, occupy my hands in early recovery, like, 12 hours a day. Like, just, like, to be able to focus on not the crushing weight of the consequences of years of addiction. And so I just sat and I painted and I painted and I painted. And I decided to have a show in the gallery and offer my paintings for sale. And the New York Post comes out and says, "Hunter Biden's selling his paintings for $500,000. I've never sold a painting nor offered a painting for $500,000 in my friggin' life. And by the way, everybody knows this because every painting that I sold, everybody that bought a painting had to pay about $250,000 to defend themselves before an impeachment hearing. Go read the transcripts
Mm.
of people under oath. But regardless, is the laptop absolutely proved nothing, but it became this cultural touchstone. It was like it embodied the Biden crime family.
Mhm.
And if you wanted to be able to believe that, not wanted to be able to believe that, if you believe that because you're being told that by people that you trust that have told you that your election was stolen, that your democracy was thwarted, that the process was unfair, is that all you had to do, and I get this, is look at the pictures. Right? Doesn't look like a good guy to me.
Right. 'Cause
He
you
looks
weren't a
like an
good guy
awful
in the
guy.
pictures.
No,
Yeah, so it's
smoking
not
crack in a
really
motel room with a prostitute.
right. Like, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, they come out and, like, they're saying, "Oh, like, this all" like, I admit it all. Not only admit it all, I own it all. I will own everything, the worst of it,
Mm.
all of it.
And then being cu like, I mean, now in retrospect and things have changed, I mean, times have changed. Like I said, I was one of the chief people that was really angry about it, and it did
Yeah,
that was the exact reason why when I reexamine it, it was the gaslighting. It's the
yeah,
same reason why I'm angry with Trump over the Epstein thing. It's like I can't come back from media gaslighting. The Trump thing is worse because it came from his own mouth, the
yeah,
gaslighting, so it wasn't like
yeah,
people trying to cover it up. It was like Trump being like, "What Epstein files? Are we still talking about the Epstein files?" And so but then things kind of changed, I think, with time also because was very I would just say definitely say I was close with Don Jr., traveled a lot with him through the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. We
yeah,
talked about it, this corruption, da da da. Can't believe they denied it. All these photos coming out, and then we get whatever this, you know, Trump family is now, and it's like, man, I think it was a historian that wrote on X exactly how I feel, which is I wish I could go back to the days where I thought like Hunter Biden's art was the most corrupt deal that was done
yeah,
in politics. And now we're going, okay, we stood behind Trump, we fought, we shared the photos of Hunter Biden to the extent that we could. And now we have their family engaged in so many corrupt deals, the meme coins, the taking advantage of people. And
yeah,
you go, okay, well, what we actually have is DC is corrupt.
yeah,
Politics is corrupt. And I think it is kind of a unifying point, not to excuse, the gaslighting of people for 2 weeks, which made people super angry. But I do think it's
yeah.
just a different time where people are kind of going back and examining. And I feel actually terrible realizing that you were finally clean, and then it's just this humiliation ritual over and over and over
Yeah.
again
Yeah.
of people putting everything out there and not realizing also your kids are facing this consequence as well, which people do not think about a lot of times when they publish stories. Like, I even was reticent and didn't cover the Chrissy Nome thing because the first thing that came to my mind,
See, they got kids.
was their kids. Like, I'm like, "These are kids that are about to go to college." Like,
Me
and
too.
so and why are they doing this? Because, she's in politics, right? And
Yeah.
so this becomes they don't think about the children, and yeah, I mean, I think I now that I have
Yeah.
kids too, I think there's just like, wow, like, they don't sign up for what I do for podcasting. Kids don't, like, sign up for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Number one, though, kids are way more resilient than you think. They're so much tougher. And, and I know, my girls, have, like, got their they love me and deeply, and I can 100% accept that love now and return it with everything that I have to offer. But you're you know, part of what you're describing is politics in memoriam,
Mm,
you know? Part of it, but something's changed, Candace. There is a meanness, a willingness to adopt, uh, very, very un-American, tactics, um, uh, against our opponents because it become a zero-sum game.
mm,
It's not just that I disagree with you, it's you need to be punished. You need to be punished for what you believe. There's this incredible show. I really wanna meet them one day. I don't know if you listened to it. It's, called The Necessary Conversation. Have you listened to that?
mm-mm.
Incredible. It's a brother and a sister who are progressives. One lives in LA and, like, one lives in Austin, or something like that, and she runs a bakery. This sister and a mom and dad, and they are ultra MAGA, and I think they were, like, in, you know, Missouri somewhere, okay? And I mean, like, don't take their caps off. Trump literally can do no wrong. He's playing 4D chess on the Epstein thing. I know he said no war in Iran, but, you know, he must have a reason for it, and you can't convince, like, literally, but they have this conversation, and they have real issues with each other. Like, the daughter gets really mad at the dad, like, "Dad, you were a jerk to us when we were kids. You made me," but then she has this conversation with her mom who loves animals and, like, taught her about empathy, and they would adopt these animals, and they would, and her you find out, like, her dad taught, or coached all of their little league games, and she was a softball player, and if a kid couldn't, like, afford the uniform, dad would quietly go out and buy the uniform, and he's awful on this thing, by the way. He's and, like, in terms of the way that he speaks and speaks to them, and he's, like, tough, and I don't give a shit, and, drop a bomb on him kinda, thing.
Mhm,
But it's so informative, is that before, that's a normal family.
mhm,
That's a thing. Before, you and I could meet at a restaurant, in Georgetown, and your husband and my wife, and we could have dinner together, and, yeah, like with Tucker. I knew Tucker, you know what I mean? And, like, you could have dinner together and think that what Tucker was saying was crazy, and I don't agree with, and I don't agree with, half the stuff, but you know what it didn't mean? It didn't mean that I thought that he should be tried for treason and executed, and that's what happened to me, and I mean that not figuratively, I mean it literally. That's what people were saying, and that's what people of real importance were saying. Those were the words that were coming out of the mouths, and I'm paraphrasing, of people like Steve Bannon and people like Rudy Giuliani, people of authority. And it changes everything. Is how can you even have a discussion, for instance, how could I go out and talk about, uh, how could I respond, "Was that cocaine mine?"
mm.
Like, "What do you want? You want me to take a drug test?" Because I'm taking a drug test almost weekly for the Department of Corrections and probation. I have a probation officer. I'm on release until trial. But what do you do? Is that the statement that you make to the New York Post? It's impossible. Becomes impossible. So what do? You realize this, and I don't know if you feel this way in your own life, is that you know what the real problem is? It's not out there. It's not that person. If I could just get Steve Bannon to tell the truth, if I could just get Rudy Giuliani to stop lying about me, if I could just get Konstantin Kulak to say that he wrote if I, like, it's not there. You realize in order to survive, it's all inside. Every single piece of it is about figuring out how to love yourself, not live in that shame. And in order for you to be able to be of service first, starts, to Melissa, like return the beautiful thing that she gave me, which was a chance
Mm.
that to be of service to my dad, to return the unconditional love, which is not love without consequences, not love without accountability. It's just knowing that no matter what, even through the consequences and being held accountable, that that person still loves me.
Mm. All right, you guys, when I think about the future, I picture the little moments that matter most: family dinners, bedtime stories, lazy Sundays at home. The people that we love are the center of everything that we're building. But there's one conversation that so many of us put off, and that's usually surrounding what would happen if we were not here. That's really what life insurance is about. It's about making sure your family is protected, supported, and able to move forward no matter what life brings. And honestly, getting covered today is so much easier than most people think. That's why I love Ethos. With Ethos, you can apply online in just minutes. No medical exams, no waiting rooms, just answer a few health questions and you could be covered the very same day. And what really stands out to me is that Ethos helps match you with coverage that actually fits your life, your goals, and your budget. With up to $3 million in coverage and plans starting around $30 a month, protecting your family can feel a whole lot more doable because peace of mind should not be complicated. So get your free instant quote today at ethos.com/Candace. Again, that's ethos.com/Candace. Application times and rates may vary. I also want to tell you guys about Native Path because this episode is brought to you by Native Path's grass-fed collagen for better bones, joints, skin, hair, and nails. Have you noticed that your skin is losing some of its glow? Maybe your nails and your hair are feeling weaker, or that it's easier to tweak a joint or pull a muscle? Well, right around age 30, our bodies start producing less collagen every year, and by the time most people reach 60, they've lost about half. That's why I use Native Path Collagen. It was created by Chad Walding, a doctor of physical therapy who spent years trying to find a clean collagen supplement for his patients. And when he couldn't, he decided to make one himself. The label has one ingredient with no fillers, no additives, and is third-party tested. It only takes 10 seconds to add to my routine, and it dissolves instantly in any beverage. So if you want stronger nails, healthier looking skin, less joint discomfort, and even improved DEXA scans, go to getnativepath.com/Candace right now. There's a special discount plus free shipping from our listeners today. Again, that's getnativepath.com/Candace. I think that was also what came across in your interview with Andrew Callahan, where after I watched it, I think it sort of edited my opinion about that relationship between your dad, because I think since the laptop scandal, in my mind, it was I guess a bit cartoonish, where it was like, well, you can do whatever you want. Go ahead, smoke crack. We're just powerful. We'll cover it. We'll do it. Like that's the like whatever. We've had so much power. We've acquired so much power.
Yeah.
And then when I sort of saw you really defending your dad over this George Clooney thing, I was like, okay, this is just a normal father-son relationship. Like people can't apply that for some reason when you're talking about a president or somebody that has access to power, but he just loves his dad. And this is the way any normal person would defend their dad. If they said something about your father, if they said something about your son, like this is so normal that I think that's what was a bit arresting for me. I was like, this is very normal dynamic. He doesn't care if Jake Tapper's on his side. He doesn't care if George Clooney is on his side. That's his dad that you're talking about. And he's having a natural reaction that I would have if someone was talking about my dad, my grandparents, my sister, my cousin, even when they do something wrong, by the way. Like it's like, okay, no, but like that's my family member who did something
and
wrong.
Your kids.
And so you
your
have no
husband.
right, and I will breathe fire on someone. And that's kind of, and you're right. And now it's getting dirtier. The games people are playing are dirtier, and it is about wanting you to feel unsafe. And I think that is something that is so new when you have people posting your address, posting where you are, knowing that you have children. And I really do. And it is over perspective. Like for me, it was me changing my mind on Israel. And suddenly I'm getting the New York Post treatment, and I'm getting all of these people coming after me, and I'm going, this is my perspective. You're welcome to try to debate me on why I feel the way I feel about, which is because I have two eyes, about what's happening in Gaza. But to do these tactics where you're trying to destroy people, is that feels very, very new to me.
Yeah, and let's be not let's be honest, I hate that phrase, okay? I got it from my perspective is this, I know where that started, and that started when, Donald Trump, from rally stages, started the "Where's Hunter?" or yell, "Where's Hunter?" Call and response crowds, and then they printed T-shirts, and then they made hats, and then they made mugs, "Where's Hunter?" And then they showed up my door. I didn't have any security. I didn't have anybody. I can't afford that in my life, particularly at that time. And they literally showed up at my door with bullhorns and MAGA hats, and on the direct and the way that they got there is the New York Post published on the front page on its cover an aerial view of my home with
Wow.
the address, and then in the thing said, and if you stand here at this, on this part of the street, you can see, and there are floor to ceiling windows, and and so they showed up,
Wow.
and Melissa was what 6 months pregnant at the time. You know, she got in the car because she was alone at the time, and sped off, and they followed her, and they ran her off the road. She panicked. And then, she got and they did it again, and they surrounded her, and that's new, man.
That is new.
And, like, similar to you, is it like, before I sat down, I heard where you live, what the level of security that you have or didn't have, and, what your perimeter of your property is like. How the hell do I know that? And how is that even remotely safe? How Because you have people who now you basically spoke your truth, and they decided that you cannot exist, and so therefore, I don't know if it's gonna happen, but for some reason, I think it's appropriate for me to say, tell you what Candace's address is,
Mhm.
who lives there, and the level of security
Yeah,
she
Tim
has.
Pool
What
doing that was
the
one of the most
oh,
it was
excuse
so
me.
obvious
By
what
the
he
way,
was
my
doing.
dad said to me, is I have to stop saying the F word.
But it was
He
no,
listened to
what
the
like,
Yeah,
seriously, that
yeah,
to me was
yeah,
like, it's a declaration of war. Like, they
yeah,
know I homeschool my kids, they know, and he's describing the security apparatus,
yeah.
and he's doing it in this rant, trying to be impassioned about the fact that I don't support Israel, or I don't support Eric,
What is it?
whatever his
Yeah,
motivation was. There is 0 reason that you would be describing the perimeter of my house
yeah,
outside of wanting someone to get harmed,
yeah.
and, like, first of all, like, I'm not like Tucker Carlson, and I say this to people all the time. That's why I get so worried, because when Tucker gets accosted in public, he just has this, like, total happy warrior demeanor. I will claw someone's eyes out for my kids. I am not the property to try. We will shoot you. Like, I will shoot you, and I will kill you, and I will happily go to prison before you have one opportunity to even make me, and I'm not even gonna think about whether you're gonna hurt my
You
kids.
sound exactly like Melissa.
That's me. That's just me.
By
And
the way,
I've said it
yeah,
over and over on my podcast. I will smile in my mugshot, okay? Because I did the right thing, and I have no qualms about that. So when he did that, I was like, okay, this little beanie boy, okay, little beanie boy, I see exactly what you're doing. The whole world sees what you're doing,
yeah,
and you are doing something because you want my children to get harmed. And then if something happens to them, you're going to go, well, I don't know how
yeah,
that happened, as I was describing the perimeter of her home and talking about what her security is,
yeah.
which was
Well, by the way,
inaccurate.
Candace, but that's like, what are we even talking about? That's exactly why they do it.
Mhm.
Is that even if the chance is this small, the reason that they do it is exactly that, is to make you really afraid, not for yourself, for your 4 kids,
Mhm.
for your family, for the people that work around you. It's like, and by the way, I'll tell you, is that I have the same approach that I think Tucker has to it, which is, and I don't know, which is basically like, I can handle, like, I can diffuse a situation, I can do it. Melissa, he will kill you.
Yeah, I'll kill you, and I'll ask questions later.
And she did exactly the same. And you know what really worries me? Is that, is that, is all of a sudden, we're all talking about violence.
Mhm.
Like, you're talking about violence. Violence is defense, but now you're talking about the violence.
Mm.
And then they kind of like go, "Oh." You're gaslighting us. This is bullshit. You're fine. You're really rich and you this and that. You can take care of yourself. It's like bullshit. Did you see what just happened to my best friend?
Yeah. Look, I mean, we
Like,
just
what are you
watched
talking
Charlie
about?
and he had a
Yeah.
full security apparatus.
Yeah.
We still don't know what happened to Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
There's zero interest. That's another thing that just completely, for me, was like done with Trump whatsoever. Like, I mean, there's just no way for someone who came from the inside and watched the work that Charlie did to get these people elected. Don Jr. was like a brother to Charlie, literally like a brother to him.
Yeah.
And to see the Trump brothers, to see Donald Trump himself, Kash Patel, who Charlie pushed for him to lead the FBI, had him on his podcast. JD Vance, like, came out of nowhere. Charlie was like not sleeping to make that happen. And to see all of these people have zero interest in the obvious holes in the story, even if ultimately the holes get filled and there's a picture that makes sense, which I put that at a 0% chance. But let's just, the fact that they have zero interest and they're just accepting the narrative, like what this has done to me, and I've said this, I'm just done with politics. I'm just done with politics because I can't even begin to comprehend it. And again, that element of gaslighting that's happening here, where they're pretending that the people who are noticing that none of this is making sense are the crazy ones, and everyone else who's like, no, turn the chapter a week later, it's all solved, and this is how it went down, and none of it makes sense, but just accept this slop. It is the most infuriating thing, and it's just fully removed the scales of my eyes, and I've stopped with this left versus right, Democrat versus Republican. I'm like, this is sheer evil versus good.
By the way,
this is like sheer evil.
But by the way, for real, exactly.
Like I'm
exactly. It is good versus evil.
Yeah.
They have torn the mask off of this. I said to you before, is that I pray to God that by the end of this, that you think of me as a friend, because if anything ever happened to me, I want you and Melissa team up. You'd like, oh my God.
Of it's not happening with Charlie Kirk.
And the criticism of you for asking the questions for someone who was like a brother to you, it's like, what the F are you talking about?
Yeah. That's
like,
the
what are you talking about?
It's like,
by the
how
way,
dare you care?
Coming from someone who you've attacked and you've politically, you've had all of your criticism, which I have no problem with, and we disagree on so many things. But I listen to you and I go, right on. Like Epstein, like you want to figure out why they don't want to let the release all the Epstein files. All you got to do is literally look at a picture of Trump standing on his stage at his inauguration and look behind him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like every single person.
He's protecting his donors without question.
I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. Like Paolo Zampoli and this and that and the other thing and all of these things. It's like, okay. And by the way, anyway, my point is it's like, when are people going to kind of wake up to the fact, and it's not left or right. This is a really, really horrible group of people that are pulling strings that impact us all, and they make us think that because you and I disagree on the graduated tax rate or some social issue, is that we are sworn enemies. Not just like sworn enemies, that I deserve violence.
And I could see them, and it does seem like both sides have woken up without question. My audience is now split, and I still say what I believe. I haven't changed my position on abortion. I'm Catholic. I have, there's nothing that has changed. I think they're just hearing me for the first time. And I do think there was something about the Charlie Kirk assassination that everyone just sort of looked up. We just sort of all looked up at the machine and was like, wait a second, what is this? Because they expected Trump to be ride or die. They expected Cash. I mean, wow, this is going to be solved in the clearest way possible, because the entire political apparatus that has the power and the Department of Justice is in the hands of Charlie Kirk's friends. Like, that was how I felt, right? This is it. No, whoever did this is never going to get away with it because these are Charlie's friends. And what did we get?
They're the people that Charlie Kirk made.
Charlie Kirk made these people. That's exactly right. You led a youth revolution to get these people elected in power. He was ride or die to
the level of disloyalty. Or fear. I don't know what it is.
Disloyalty
is
disloyalty, maybe guided by fear, but it's
so
still disloyalty.
Disturbing.
It's disturbing, and I cannot forgive Trump, the Trump family, what they have done or what they have not done for Charlie
Can I keep
post-death.
one of these?
Yeah,
Conspiracy?
yeah. And I'm
Love
full
it.
on, I'm like, "Call me a conspiracy." I'm like you, where I'm like, "Oh, what is the shame tactic of the day? You're calling me a conspiracy theorist? Great." I'm like, "You'd be a fool to believe the stuff that they're telling us today, the stories are telling us." I mean, it is something that is just so disturbing, and I think that the Charlie assassination has just so crazy, like, 'cause he was so Republican conservative, but I think it's brought people together in a productive way.
Yeah.
And
Look, well, I'm here, and you're here, and the, I really think that we're not unique, I think very, very kind of emblematic is that, like, I'm like, let's put the past, not behind us. Like, I'll explain anything you want. I'll talk about anything that you wanna talk about, that you still have questions about or that anybody is it but, like, this isn't right. This, what we're witnessing right now is not right.
Mhm.
The level of corruption, the obfuscation, I mean, whether it's Butler or Charlie or
Butler makes no
these
sense.
things that it's just not right. And I mean, it's so glaringly not right. It's almost as if they're just saying,
F
like,
you.
"F you.
They're not even
I don't
trying.
care."
We don't
You
even
know
get good
what?
psyops anymore, and that's what I keep saying. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
so disrespectful that we're not even getting good psyops anymore. Like, we're supposed to believe he survived 4 what are we at, 4 assassination attempts, the
Yeah,
first president that's ever survived 4 assassination attempts.
yeah.
They lie to us about things, they make a big deal, and then they make it wanna, it's gonna go away. They're gonna keep pretending and telling us that this is a totally normal grieving widow, okay? No one's buying that, like, that something's
No.
just not right here. Everyone can see that. This is not how you would react to your husband being shot, and, this sort of just, "I'm fine," and like, 2 weeks later, I fully accept the narrative. I have no interest in anything else. It's over. Let's close it. I forgive him. Let's move on. You're asking us to abandon our common sense and our humanity is what you're asking us to do, and that kinda seems like where we're at, like, they're insisting on this, and I'm going, "Where is this gonna go?" Because we're not doing the thing they want us to do. Like, they are just constantly giving us slop all the time. I mean, even the recent White House Correspondents' Dinner, there was so much theater to it after, so much theater, and now it's kind of, okay, Secret Service maybe shot each other, and we're just gonna kinda quietly move on, but Trump needs the ballroom. Like, that's a normal
Yeah.
reaction. "Hey, there's a shooting duck. Hey, well, we better get that
And
ballroom."
by the way, it's gonna cost $1 billion now, and by the way, it's not from donors, and by the way, we're gonna do it like, it's just the constant, like, talk about gaslighting.
This has been just
Yeah.
this, and we're not even, are we even a year into, Trump's second
Yeah,
term?
we're a little over a year.
A little over a year and a
Yeah.
second, and I don't think there's just been. I'm like,
Yeah.
how are we going to deal with 4 years of just being gaslit every 5 seconds and told that, but MAGA, literally MAGA, is not MAGA anymore, and what was actually never Trump, which was actually pro Hillary Clinton, if you think about it, that's now MAGA. It's literally people who have been against Trump the entire time who are lecturing us about this stuff, like the Mark Levins and the Ben Shapiros, and like, we're MAGA, and the Laura Loomers, like, we're MAGA now. Okay, great. Then I'm not MAGA. Like, I've never agreed with these people. I am opposed to these people's ideas. I am opposed to unleashing an actual lunatic who has had to be Baker acted and put on Psych 5150 holds by her own parents who fear her. I'm opposed to that actually being unleashed upon the population.
Melissa always uses that 5150. I had that. She goes, "That person's going to get 5150." And I go, "What are you talking about? What's 5150?"
It's like, and you're telling us this is
Yeah.
MAGA now. Like, this is what we do, and
Yeah.
so it's been a challenging time because you do have to have like the humility to admit that I'm quite embarrassed
Candace,
about it.
the president of the United States of America has posted images of himself as a king, I think, half a dozen times now.
Yeah.
Like, when are people going to wake up and go, okay, like, if that's what you want, and by the way, if that's what you want, then you know what? I know that there is the vast majority of Americans, but some that are really gonna really have a problem.
Yeah.
Really have a problem.
I am
and
MAGA.
God forbid. And this whole thing is that we all need allies now because they do have an enormous amount of power. One of the things that I always think about is that it's so easy to silence people, but it would be particularly easy, for instance, to go like if someone like the whole cocaine in the White House thing. And by the way, I look at that your fan base, is that, like, you can believe whatever you wanna believe, but I know my truth, and that's all I can do.
And you preferred crack anyways.
100%, okay? And I would
The
not
evidence is
and by the way,
overwhelming he preferred crack.
I would not have forgotten it in a cubby
Not if you're crawling on
to
the
go
floor.
into the Situation Room, which I've never been in before. Okay, exactly. I mean, Jesus Christ. Anyway, but my point is that what if they, what if I'm flying back to LA and, and I go through security and they find drugs in my bag? Who would believe me that I'm so clean and sober? Who would possibly believe me?
No one.
No one. No one. And I could take drug tests and I could prove it and I could, I mean, literally, I I pack my bag in front of a witness everywhere I go so that at least I would be able to say that. Here's the crazy part, is the idea that I would think that there is a government in power capable of doing that says everything anyone needs to know
Mm.
about where we are.
Yeah.
The idea that you feel unsafe in the United States of America because you disagree with the current administration on a issue that 70% of Americans agree with you on.
Mhm.
Like, I think we all can agree is that we need to stop the wholesale murder of a population in Gaza.
Mhm.
Whatever you think about my father's policy as it relates, I always say to people, one thing he didn't do? He didn't greenlight to turn Gaza into a Trump golf course. With the maitre d' being Jared Kushner with $4 billion in Saudi money.
It's despicable.
Despicable.
It's just like they did the deal before. I mean, when he posted that, I'll never forget that, posted the Trump, like, here's what Gaza could be, and, like, I could have my name in a building, and I was like,
But literally, that's what they're doing.
this is dead children. Like, you're literally saying this is all gonna be fine because we're gonna get up a Trump resort or something. Positively despicable. I mean, just positively despicable, tasteless, indefensible, and
it's not a joke, though, is my point.
It wasn't a joke, and that is the deal.
And that's what they're doing.
Mhm.
Literally doing. And by the way, they're doing it out in the open. I mean, it's not as if they're hiding it in any way.
Mhm.
I mean, they are making deals as they go through. Like I always say to people, it's like, you had such a problem with me. I didn't do any business.
I'll take the paintings.
I didn't do a single business. Every single person that bought a painting from me during the time my dad was there in office. I had 2 shows and probably sold a total of 20 paintings and 13 of them to my best friend. And that's it. That's it. And you had a problem, not you. Well, you too, but had a problem with me as being this emblem of corruption. These guys, okay, Don Jr. got the single largest loan guarantee from the Department of Defense ever handed out of over $600 million for an energy company, a fusion energy company, of which he has zero experience in. They have gotten Jared Kushner, who's never run a private equity fund, has now a $4 billion private equity fund with 80% of the money coming from the Middle East, of which he continues to raise as he is the ambassador at large on behalf of the Trump administration, not as a political appointee, but simply as a son-in-law of the president, to come to a peace deal of a war in Iran that they started that has cost the economy billions and billions of dollars for a war nobody wanted. That every president before him, was pressured by the Israelis to get into. And every single one, regardless of what you think of them, from Jimmy Carter, through President Reagan, through both of the Bushes, through Clinton, through my dad, said, you're out of your damn minds. And here's the reason why. This is what's going to happen. So who benefits right now? You know who benefits? The people that are making trades of bi billions of dollars on market manipulation that occurred, and
Insider
we all know
trading
it.
has
It's
been
literally out in the open, but who's gonna, you know, who's
no, it's
gonna
you will
do
not
anything
get a
about it?
disagreement out of me. Like, I am so far off the Trump train. He's
No,
posting
no, by
me
the way, and I'm not even
on
saying
time.
it
Like,
for
it's
the
embarrassing.
purposes of,
It's
like,
but it
yeah,
is embarrassing. It is
yeah.
embarrassing because we got behind him as the answer to corruption. We thought he was gonna be this outsider, he's gonna go to DC, he's gonna drain the swamp, and then he became the Loch Ness Monster, And so it's like,
Yeah,
I don't know what it is about that swamp, but you get swimming in it, and
yeah,
it's like people do this. And yes, it has been for Israel. Not to say that Trump wasn't pro-Israel. Most presidents actually are pro-Israel when they go in there, and if they go anti-Israel, they kind of end up dead. But it's or they sort of get kicked out. If you want to talk about Nixon and the scandal of Watergate, which I've revisited and did think that had a lot more to do with his shifting viewpoints, but that wasn't the issue. Like, I was pro-Israel, generally speaking, not very educated about the topic. It's this level of corruption that you're talking about, when you are willing to let real Americans be harmed, their day-to-day lives be harmed. They're suffering at the gas pump. Their groceries are expensive. All at the so that you could further enrich. How much more money does Trump family need? I mean, just like literally, how much more money do you need? Like that you're going to allow this to happen? Don't you just want to have now the legacy of being a good president? I mean, this is
yeah. What I was saying to you about, like, the cryptocurrency thing, I think there's incredible promise in cryptocurrency. I believe in the, meme token. I'll do something one day to create a community, and there's really good reasons to do it. There's really interesting ways, and I know people can disagree. I just happen to be kind of like
crypto
a
guy.
crypto. I mean, just because of my I think it is incredible freedom in a world in which we've been controlled by banks. So if you have the same problem that I have with big pharma banks and the Fed and these, like, where does money come from kind of thing,
Hmm.
is it like, I truly believe in what uh, Satoshi, kind of the manifesto of Bitcoin. But that's just me, regardless. My point is that they had such an opportunity.
Hmm.
They had such an opportunity. I'll give you this. I want you to look at the conspiracy theories. Go look up Gal Luft and Alexander Smirnov. They're the two principal individuals that made the only claim that people hung their hat in Congress and elsewhere as it relates to my dad and corruption, bribery and stuff like that. One of them is a fugitive from justice wanted by Interpol and the United States government, Gal Luft, who is a former IDF officer who is believed to be living in Israel as a fugitive, which the Israelis will not help us locate. And the other one is Alexander Smirnov, who is a known Israeli intelligence agent. Those are the two people who was in a prison in the United States, so serving 6 years, and they can't find him. Bureau of Prison can't find him in his prison, in the prison. He is on furlough, but no one knows where he's been furloughed to. The only passport that he has is an Israeli passport. There are forces that I used to say, "Oh, this is bullshit." Have you ever read The Devil's Chessboard?
Yes. Alan Dulles, looking into the CIA, I read this book, Chaos, that then led me to The Devil's Chessboard. It's actually on our list for
Yeah,
books to read for the book club.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. It'll knock you
Yeah,
Chaos, CIA,
yeah.
the
I
Manson stuff,
read,
that
yeah,
was the one that
yeah,
knocked me, and I was like,
yeah.
"What the heck is our
Well, then
government?
you
What is
read The
going
Devil's
on?"
Chessboard, and you
Yeah.
realize that anyway.
What the CIA is capable of, and you think it's all a conspiracy, and I think that's what they're fearful of, is that people will have awakened to that,
Yeah.
and so when they're kinda trying to throw red meat now, which you see them doing, the left, the right, it's just not landing the same anymore because
No,
we just realize that there is a
by the way,
devil's chessboard.
that's why I have, in terms of the left, like, you think I'm gonna defend the, the DC elite of the left? They they crushed my dad. They when they saw their chance, they did everything in their power to, to push him out. You know why? Because he was never part of that club. He was never part of the Epstein class. He lived in Delaware. Everybody that you can think whatever you want about my dad is that literally my dad never bought a stock or a bond because he made a commitment in 1972 when he was 30 years old after Watergate never to own a stock or a bond. And he did. My dad was the poorest person ever to enter the presidency, and the poorest person, not poorest, I mean, he had money, he'd written a book, and he'd done well, but he had the least amount of wealth entering the presidency in modern years since 1900 than anybody. And when he was in the United States Senate, he was not only the poorest man in the Senate, not poor again, he made over $170,000 in average over the course of 45 years, but not just the Senate, but 535 members of Congress. He was never a part of that club. And that's what I wish, like, you knew. That's what I wish they knew. And I am not here in any way to defend, the DC elites of my own party. I think that they're just as complicit in all this bullshit.
No, without question, like the Nancy Pelosi's. What's your opinion on Kamala then? Did you like her?
Look,
Like you didn't? You definitely
no,
didn't.
you know what? I did, and I don't wanna say anything. I didn't know the vice president that well,
Okay.
you know? I mean, and she was always nice to me personally, and so that was my, but I didn't have the other thing that people think that I was, like, living at the White House. I literally didn't leave my home because it was really hard to leave. I stayed, in the hill that I lived on until the fires came. That's where I was. I was with Bo and Melissa, and trying to make it through, and not trying to make it through, thriving, making it through what would otherwise have seemed like a horrible, horrible life from any outsider's perspective. So I'm not dodging the question, but I don't want to shit on the vice president because I have no reason to
No,
necessarily.
she did nothing personal to you. She was nice to you.
Never did anything personal to me.
Yeah.
I think that she is, so
Kind
I
of just
really don't know.
machine stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't, in terms of all of that stuff, I think I'm tough enough to realize that, that's part of, like, when you get to politics at that level, people kind of, I think, have this misperception of me is that for 50 years I was a crack addict and I was that picture.
Mhm.
I mean, I went to Yale Law School. I served in the Clinton administration. I was chairman of the board of the UN World Food Program, which is the largest humanitarian organization in the world. I served on 16 boards before I ever joined the board of Burisma or anything. I taught at Georgetown I was, taught at the master's program of the School of Foreign Service for 4 years.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. And
That was something that surprised me too, not to be rude, but I thought you were dumb.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, maybe because Meghan McCain was on The View for too long or something, and I was like, here we go, just like rich political kids. Like, I mean, she's just so dumb.
Yeah.
And yet she's just always here, like they're just giving her stuff. And so I think there's also that perception where it's
Yeah. By the
rich
way,
kids don't work, aren't smart.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of expecting you to be sort of a Meghan McCain.
Yeah.
And then when I watched it, I was like, oh wait, he actually has brain cells, which is, by the way, remarkable that you didn't kill them all off when you were on crack.
Yeah, I told you before. I think they got pickled all the vodka.
Or something like that. So I was like, this is interesting. He's not a total idiot. So there are the stereotypes of rich kids who just keep getting handed all of these awards in life.
I say to everybody is that if there's anybody in the history of America that benefits from low expectations, it's me. Is that people are like, oh my God, like you aren't.
You're not
a
dumb.
Complete moron.
I
You haven't pulled out your crack pipe yet, which is really crazy. But that gives you an idea, by the way, of the level to which I was muted because they didn't want it. And you have to subvert yourself to a machine to a certain degree. And like it wasn't up to me if I wanted to go out and like rail at the machine or rail at go on and argue with Jake Tapper, or,
because it would harm your dad.
Yeah, because then I become even more of the story. But you give up your voice in that way, and it's incredibly emasculating. And particularly when the portrait that is being painted of you as a ne'er-do-well that never did anything in their life, like you want to talk about experience? Go look at my goddamn resume. I have 10 times more experience in 10 times more things. And I know I am 10 times more well-read than either one of the Trump boys, regardless of what you think about them. Now, you know what I can't do? Is that I'm not a great shot. And and I don't know anything about real estate,
Mhm.
and I don't know anything about making money, and that's why I'm about, a few $1,000,000 in debt. And I don't. And I need to change that one around in some way at the age of 56. But the portrait that was painted on me has given me this incredible gift, is that I can walk into your house, into your studio, and I guarantee that people
Mind blown.
afterwards are gonna go, "I still think he's but my god, he's not. You know what? Like, can you believe it? He didn't go do lines in the bathroom."
No, I was that was my reaction when I
Yeah,
watched the Andrew Callahan interview. I was like, "Wow, he's actually thought through his addiction. He's talking about the ritual. Like, this guy's not an idiot." And
yeah.
you're right. I guess you do benefit from having exceedingly low expectations,
Exactly.
but it was sort
Yeah,
of like you said the first time you spoke, and of course you did sort of have to be quiet because otherwise you would have definitely
yeah,
hurt your father. And there's a machine that's kind of bigger
yeah.
than you that you have to
By the
submit
way, the
yourself
rage
to.
was there. You could tell that I even went back. My dad just said, "Honey, that was really beautiful parts of it. Did you have to use the F word that much?" I was like, "Coming from you."
Yeah.
Yeah. Which the thing about my dad, though, is he, uh he, at least from a different generation, he never talked to us that way, ever. Like, even around my mom or, but anyway, so I'm trying to curb the F word for for my mom and dad.
All right, you guys, summertime expenses in 2026 are stacking up faster than ever, leaving Americans feeling like the only option is swiping their credit cards. This keeps you trapped in a cycle of high interest debt. American Financing has a way out. This is not about shortcuts, it's a real strategic plan to reset your finances and reclaim your budget. At American Financing, they specialize in building plans tailored specifically for your goals. They look at your current debt and show you exactly how your home's equity can work smarter for you. So imagine rolling that high interest debt into one simple, manageable monthly payment. There are no upfront fees and zero pressure, just honest advice from salary based consultants. On average, their customers are saving $800 a month. That is real breathing room. So start today, and you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. Call American Financing today at 800 795 1210. Again, that's 800 795 1210. Or visit AmericanFinancing.net/Owens. Again, that's AmericanFinancing.net/Owens. American Financing, America's home for home loans. How old
Yeah.
were you, by the way, when your mother died in the car accident?
Just about 3. I was a
Wow.
month away from 3. Bo was a month away from 4. My sister, Caspi, was about 18 months, and, who my oldest daughter's named after, Naomi, uh, and yeah.
Do you have any memory of her?
Yeah, it's I don't know, for certain whether the things that I have, which I believe are memories, are memory, because it would be very rare, at that age. I have distinct memories of my mom carrying us around in picnic basket, and, and I even have a distinct memory of the car, not the accident, but of the car. Um, uh, but I don't know if it's because I've been, you know, so steeped in stories. The beautiful part, like everything, there's a. Have you ever read any of the Gnostic Gospels? You know,
No.
you really should, because I know you're. Uh, I've listened to you talk about your Catholicism and your faith, and
And I'm like a toddler in the faith, and there's
yeah,
so much.
yeah.
It's like so
So
rich.
it's really cool. There's the one of the things that uh, I've always been a student of, because when I first went to Georgetown, the 2 closest people after I got to Georgetown were 2 Jesuit priests. One was named Ted Desiak, and another one was Bill Watson. And both Father Watson and Father Desiak led me into this idea of service. I started a thing called the Jesuit International Volunteers, with Father Watson. Excuse me, Father Desiak, and then I went to the JBC because of Father Watson, which is like domestic Peace Corps, and I did that for a year. And then when I opened up my own law firm, all my clients were, Jesuit universities, because I was friends with presidents of the universities that were just like 5 or 6 years older than me, that were now becoming presidents of St. Joe's and Granton, Loyola and all these Jesuit universities, Detroit Mercy, and, but anyway, the Gnostic Gospels. The Gnostic Gospels were, they were found, in Naj Hammadi, and they were written in the period between, Christ's death and the first 2 centuries. And there's the Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of Philip, and Constantine. And now I'm gonna do this, boring the hell out
No,
of
I'm
her.
very interested in this. This
Constantine,
is
the Emperor Constantine converted
Mhm.
to Christianity.
Yep, the end.
But what he did, and really what it was about, was not a true transformation of faith. It was a way to consolidate power. So he made the Christian, bishops who were, 200 years into the very, very early church. He made the Christian bishops his lieutenants and enforcers as it related to, the religion, so that he can control the more radical elements of it. And so that is when they came to an adoption of just 4 gospels.
Mm.
And, 'cause there's all of these other writings that became, that you could get excommunicated for, promoting. That is really beautiful, portraits of, like, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene
Mm.
and Jesus's relationship with Mary Magdalene. But anyway, it's not a gospel, but it is one of the texts. I think it's called, the Acts of John. There is a thing that Christ says, and he says, I'm paraphrasing, "You must learn to suffer as I do in order to be able not to suffer." And that is the greatest lesson of everything, is not having gratitude for all the good things in my life, for having immense gratitude for all of my life. Like, I wouldn't be here. We couldn't have this honest conversation. I couldn't get to know you as a human being if every single thing didn't occur
Mm.
behind it. I would not feel this gift of being alive on a daily basis the way that I do if I hadn't overcome committing suicide dozens of times in motel rooms, in places that I could never afford to be found dead. You know, and it's that piece of life that, like, the only way I got it is when they just tore off all my clothes, tarred and feathered me, and put me in the center of town and said, "Look at him." And I survived. When you survive that, you kinda go, "What am I gonna do with my life?" Well, number one thing I wanna do with my life is, number one, take care of me.
Yeah.
You
I
take care
do
of me
I
and
feel like I
yeah,
have to say, like, I'm really sorry that I contributed to that. Like, I just feel really shitty, like, I feel guilty because, like, hearing you talk about I mean, basically having the worst moments of your life, like, I always speak about on my show how a lot of these kids growing up aren't gonna even know what it was like before social media where you could just make a mistake and then, like, have that be over, and you got to grow up, and now it's like they're digging and they're finding people's
yeah.
tweets from when they're 17, they're an idiot, they wrote the N word once, and they, like, wanna hang them when they're 40, and, I just I just saw you as a caricature, and it was definitely, like I said, like, feeling gaslit by the political machine, convinced that it was just the left that partook in this political machine, and I just, like, really wanna say, like, genuinely, like, I'm so sorry that I just didn't even consider he's a crackhead, and, like,
Look,
like, that's actually a very relatable
I'm
thing, and he
yeah,
shouldn't be
yeah,
like, to have that is just
yeah.
unbelievable to consider
Well,
every worst thing that you've ever done.
I am, like I told you before we started, I cry very easily.
Like, but I just feel like
Yeah,
it's not who I wanna be, and I think
yeah,
I've come a long way from that in general, and, like, but I did partake in just the inhumanity of just, look at this guy at the worst moment of his life, like, with prostitutes, he's on crack, he's on drugs, and
yeah.
we should make fun of him because it makes us feel good, um, or it makes us feel like we're somehow beating the machine, and that it was, I think, a really warped viewpoint, and hearing you speak about it today, I'm just like, "Wow, that is
You
so gross that I partook."
you have so much, and I mean this in a good way, so much power because I think that the your audience absolutely trusts you. And the reason that they trust you is because you've shown an enormous amount of courage of speaking your mind, particularly as it related to someone that you love like a brother, and everything that has transpired since then, which is a immediate rejection of power and an immediate rejection of and knowing that you were just gonna get the shit beat out of you. And for you to say that to me, I truly mean it. Just from a purely selfish point of view, it means the world. Um, and
Thanks. No one deserves
that it
that.
was and I didn't I truly didn't come here for that. I came here because you know what? I ask forgiveness every day, um, without any expectation that I will be forgiven. But I know the people that I hurt, and and I still do, and I'm not even remotely perfect, and I still screw up, and and but God, like if we could have this conversation and genuinely, authentically believe that, like I think just opens the door for and a few other people without being, with all humility, like maybe, maybe a few other people.
And there is a freedom in it too. Like, there's a freedom that your worst moments have just, like,
Yeah,
there's nothing
total.
else.
What are you gonna say?
Yeah,
You know what I
it's
mean?
like
Like,
you
I think,
you got me butt naked up
yeah,
with a crack pipe, so, I
yeah,
mean, I
exactly.
survived it, and so
Yeah,
you have it, and
yeah,
it allows you to kind of
yeah,
return to who you are because it's
yeah,
addiction is
yeah,
I wouldn't wish it. I always say, like, people, growing up and seeing what it's done to families and, seeing a lot of stuff when I was younger, like, really made me, like again, I'm
yeah.
like, "Wow, I can't even imagine."
Imagine if you could talk about it. Imagine if you could have openly talked about it, and the person that you were confronting or doing it is like, were able to say, like, "This is," like, "We gotta do something about this. Come on, everybody, let's do something about it." I wanna start an aftercare program for people for free because the biggest thing that happens is people go to detox, and they go to recovery center, or rehab, and they get out after 30 days, and they got nowhere to go. And so one of the things that I'm trying to do is start a free aftercare program. And there's a couple. There's one in Kentucky that is a really beautiful model. But if I could do that, I work with an organization called Boston Universal. I'm the development director there, and they do tenants' rights and uh, and homeless prevention. Like I know what we all can agree on. We can all agree on that, that people can't afford to pay the rent and need to be able to figure out a way to stay in their houses before it becomes a mother with 3 kids that are homeless.
Mm.
We know where that leads. But these kinds of things is what I wanna use, what I'm doing, I wanna do that. I also wanna make a living. I also wanna be able to pay my debt. I also wanna be able to do the things that I have, I also still wanna make art, you know? I started, finally and like, "You know what? I'm gonna put all my art on my website, and people can come look at it. If they wanna buy it, they can buy it." And,
Mhm.
like, because I don't really believe art becomes art until you share it with somebody. I mean, like, until there's an observer of it. So I can sit in my studio, which is my garage, but I wanna do all of those things, and I wanna be able to do it, and I wanna be able to talk to you. You know what I mean? I wanna be able to talk to the people. I wanna talk to, like, that family, the necessary conversation,
Mm,
and say to the mom, like, "The stories your daughter tells you about the way that you adopted animals, it really moves me.
mm.
The fact that you think I'm the spawn of the devil, I can we maybe have a discussion about it?"
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's a caricature,
Yeah.
and I have a caricature of me that's been built up for years, so I should have been more empathetic to it, honestly, but it's when you're in it, you kinda don't really know that you're in it, I think.
Well, not only in it, is that you're in it to win it.
Yeah.
And once everything is put in a political lens and life or death and, you know, if we lose this election, this is over and now I will tell you this is that we've never had somebody that is, you know, uh, you know, opposed staying longer than they're supposed to. But regardless, is that I think that we all have a tendency to, to look at the time that we live in and say that it's worse than ever.
Mhm.
Absolutely the worst. And the fact of the matter is if you like if you know your history, is that, like, this is a cycle. Um, uh, there will always be really bad people. We will always be disappointed, in the end with leadership. We will always have corruption. It doesn't mean that we need to accept it. It doesn't mean that we don't need to fight against it. It doesn't mean that sometimes really good people make the wrong choice. Um, uh, but what it does mean is that I have absolute hope. I really truly still believe in America, even with all of the incons the all of its, faults. I mean, even after reading The Devil's Chessboard, like, you read that and you go
Mhm.
like,
What is
and that's
this?
not about Democrats, and that's
No.
not about
No.
Republicans. And if you go back and you go back to Reconstruction, you go back to Andrew Johnson, and you go back to, like, the fact that the United States of America has not been truly the United States of America until, 1964 at best. And this whole thing, but I still really believe in the illusion.
Mm.
And the thing that makes me so mad is they have completely torn away that illusion, and people feel hopeless. They feel like there's no chance of changing it. Okay, they gave this guy the reins to do it, and he was the one who was gonna blow everything up and make it better for everybody. And they're kinda like, "Wait a second. What happened to Charlie? Wait a second. Why are we at war again?"
Yeah.
You know?
I think this is actually the most important question, and I will make this my final question I wanna ask you, but,
Uh-oh.
I'm really interested
Yeah.
about your faith life. You're Catholic, you're raised Catholic, you went to
I
Catholic
am
school, and,
yeah.
like, is you're talking to me about the Gnostic
Okay, let's
Gospels.
you and I go see the Pope together.
I would love to do that.
Seriously.
I think he's a little mad at America right now,
No, but
and
you and I
he's
could go
he's
see
been
him.
I was tweeted the same
Yeah.
day as the Pope, by the way, by Trump when he said bad things about me,
For real,
so
let's go to the Vatican.
I would love to. I would
This is
love
the
to.
coolest place in the world. I love
I
the
just got
Pope.
back from Italy. I
Yeah.
was there,
Oh,
2
were
weeks
you?
ago. Yeah,
Okay.
I did my confirmation.
Well, oh, you did?
I did. It was just the most
Oh,
beautiful,
that's so cool.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
It was literally the same day that Trump
yeah,
posted the Time most vile person of
okay,
the year. So
yeah,
I felt like there was even in that, there was something divine because it was like looking at fake power and then the real power of like having, a
yeah.
cardinal getting confirmed, being in Italy, the deep history, like what outlasts that. Like there was something so fickle about it. Like posting this photo of me when I was sick. Okay, great. Um,
Wait, hold on.
talk about humiliating people for sport.
Somebody literally sent this to me right before I came into you. They knew that I was going to talk to you, and I promise you I did not plan to do
No,
this.
you're so fine.
It was a prayer. "If you are wise and understand God's ways, prove it by living an honorable life. Do good works with the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you are bitterly jealous and there is selfish ambition in your heart, don't cover up the truth with boasting and lying. For jealousy and selfishness are not God's kind of wisdom. Such things are earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. For wherever there is jealousy and selfish ambition, there you will find disorder and evil of every kind." The whole first piece of that, when you were just talking, is what's my faith? If you are wise and understand God's ways, prove it by living an honorable life. And the thing that I recognized is that quote from Mother Teresa. I don't go to mass as much as I used to. Grew up going to mass every Sunday. Never would miss a mass. I went to Georgetown. I was Catholic, but what I realized is that my real faith is in that belief. Is that just do the next right thing. That's it. Whether it's the golden rule, and that doesn't mean you have to be weak in your empathy, but always be compassionate. I believe in the perennial philosophy. I believe that same exact message from the Upanishads to the Gospels of Jesus Christ are all at base in terms of the red letter words of each of them are saying the same thing. Love your neighbor like you would want to be loved. And it's the hardest thing in the world to do. It's so hard, but that's my faith. And And I think that there are certain people that arrive at certain times that are messengers of that. And, uh, like, for instance, I certainly don't agree with the Catholic Church on a lot of stuff. I certainly, have a, uh but I tell you what, I really am so proud of Pope Francis and now Pope Leo in terms of just the notion of social justice. Um, and, uh, and I think that there can be a practical, application of that in terms of our leadership. I really do. I think that faith that is used as a cudgel is really, really dangerous. I think that, um, I know a lot of people that I personally love and very close to that are part of an evangelical church, particularly in the African American community, but that are, horrified by the complicity of a certain section of the evangelical church and what's happening in the world today.
Mm.
So, to me, my faith is very personal, rooted in uh, it's rooted in Catholicism, uh, and it's rooted in the Society of Jesus, the Jesuit Church in particular, which they used to always call the Black Pope until we finally got a Jesuit Pope. But and with the eyes wide open too, that the church is as an institution is incredibly flawed and had been, it um but it's given me an enormous sense of community and belonging, just from a cultural perspective.
Well, what I'm gonna say is I really think you should go to confession.
Yeah.
You should do that.
Oh, I don't worry, I've been to confession.
Yeah, you should yeah, you go to
So,
confession
yeah,
and get,
don't no, no, no,
and
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
I
and
yeah,
just, just
100%. Yeah, don't worry.
go back to the root.
I've
Go back
been
to
there.
the root and,
And here's
it's
the other
there's
thing.
so much there, and it's like you're not, you're just not enough, your brain's not enough. I mean, hearing you describe that, "I can do this," that there's just something about, for me, like, the submission that just every at mass and just remembering, like,
The beautiful thing
yeah,
the
I'm
beautiful
not
thing is
enough.
this. The beautiful thing is that I have been going to confession for 6 years.
Wow.
Right here. That's me. I like, that freedom, what you feel like the only person that you could say this to, and I'm not saying that there is not, like my impure thoughts that I'm, you know, that's between me and God, but I am saying is that feeling of release that the confessional is there for is the feeling that when I was finally able to see beyond all of the noise that I received by just existing
Mhm.
and getting up every day and looking, turning over and seeing that my wife who saved me and Bowie and my dad as a dad, not as president, but just as a dad. And my mom and my sister and my aunts and uncles and everybody else, and then the wider circle, my friend George, my friend Franny, my friend Bobby. I like people that had came into my life and never left, and despite it all, when there was nothing in it for them but just grief and ridicule. Pretty cool.
It's everything.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Hunter Biden, never thought this conversation would happen, and it just stranger things have happened, and this has truly been one of the most powerful discussions that we've ever had, and I think it's because of your journey. You've lived through a lot. You lost your mother, your sister in a tragic accident. You lost your brother to cancer. Maybe for a while lost your dad to politics, the
Yeah.
political machine. Lost yourself to crack cocaine, and somehow,
And I gained everything.
yeah, gained it all back.
Yeah, I really did. I can't tell you how much it means to me that you would invite me here into your home to be able to have this discussion. Um, and I, I really, really mean it. I'm really, really honored.
And
Thank
I'm
you.
and I'm grateful that you took it and that you've accepted my apology because I just feel really shitty about it, but,
Thanks.
guilt is good, like we said earlier.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. Amazing.